nowhere to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems. Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems. Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems. Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems. Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals... Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, Your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems. Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems.
Good evening. Welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news Untold stories. I am Oni Opala. Let's begin. Russia-Ukraine talks to resume. Russia gas continues to flow to Europe. Interrupted by fierce confrontation, Putin La Republic du Cameroon military and Ambazonia restoration forces a few years back. Work has timidly resumed on the neglected border road that linked the Midlands to the French-Cameroon neighboring Bafoussam. The colonial government has gathered courage to resume work following the signing of a memorandum of understanding between the Ministry of Public Works and the Ministry of Defense, the latter promising to provide maximum security on the construction site. What's really happening? Fellow Ambazonians, let me remind you and all the Ambazonia restoration forces that the day you will agree that you no longer need this IG in the prosecution of this war will be the day you dash our hope to achieve a free and independent Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, because a two-wheeled vehicle cannot move on one wheel. The home front cannot do without the IG, and the IG cannot do without the home front. It was on that high note that President Sako concluded last Thursday's APP Town Hall. We will get into the details of that, but first, let us get into the prime headlines.
Prime headlines. Barnes takes the risk to reconstruct the border road Babaju-Bamenda. Colonial forces and Bororo. APP town hall with the president. Intelligence has it that the French Cameroon president, declared dead several times, is now acutely ill. Reacting to the folly of Mr. Anu, former chief of staff of the communications department, predicts his doom soon. Russia-Ukraine talks to resume. Russia gas continues to flow to Europe. interrupted by fierce confrontations pitting La République du Cameroon military and Ambazonia restoration forces a few years back. Work has timidly resumed on this neglected border road that links the Midlands to the French-Cameroon neighboring Bafoussam. The colonial government has gathered courage to resume work following the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding between the Ministry of Public Works and the Ministry of Defense, the latter promising to provide maximum security on the construction site. A consultation meeting had earlier taken place under the auspices of the Minister of Public Works, Nganu Messi, with stakeholders March 21 to 23, 2022. To lay down groundworks, and on March 29th, it was finalized that Bonds, a road construction company belonging to one Mr. Njong, an Ambazonian from Boyo County, will bear the risk which had been earlier abandoned by Satom, another road construction firm. The fled due to insecurity brought to bear by the vibrant Ambazonia restoration forces. The road in question, linking the Midlands of Ambazonia to the French Cameroon's west region, covers barely 35 kilometers, which the failed regime in Yaoundé had been unable to mend for over 25 years. And this very distance, which used to cost travelers 500 francs CFA, has gone up to over 3,000 francs CFA or even 5,000 francs CFA because of high degradation. 467 inhabitants have been censored by the colonial administration as affected by this construction work, and their indemnities estimated at close to 7 billion francs CFA. Only a miracle can cause the colonial government to realize this dream and satisfy victims as those displaced in the Lek here in the central region of La République du Cameroon due to the construction of a so-called express road to link Douala are still striking and mounting barricades to get their indemnities promised by the moribund regime. Yaoundé to Douala is 240 kilometers, and since 12 years, the thieving government in Yaoundé has only covered 60 kilometers. Meanwhile, the ring road in Kunkuma Binvondo Bia Paul promised in 1983 to personally supervise its construction never took off and had long been shelved by the Yaoundé junta. Forgotten since 38 years ago, unfulfilled promises has cost denizens of the Savannah zone so much in terms of transportation. One will not imagine that Bamenda to Nkambe is 170 kilometers, same with Yaoundé to Ebolowa and Yaoundé to San Melima. While the colonizer pays 1,500 francs CFA on his or her good roads to San Melima or Ebolowa, the denizens of the savannah for no crime of theirs will pay 10,000 francs CFA to 20,000 francs CFA to get to Nkambe because they have been neglected by the colonial masters. Ambazonia, be free.
Basic amenities should not be struggled for. Basic amenities like electricity, road, and shelter should not be an issue in the present here and time. But it is amazing how Ambazonians are carefully taking care of themselves. I mean, if we don't take care of ourselves, who will? Stay Smart will do the full report. It is believed that when an attack lasts for over 24 hours, it means the government is involved. Our people are rendered helpless and homeless on the regular basis. But we will keep talking till our voices are heard. Meanwhile, how long will it take the international community to come to our aid? How much more are we supposed to suffer? The atrocities that lasted for over 24 hours started on Tuesday, March 29, and subsided on Wednesday, March 30th, 2022, as villagers rendered homeless sought refuge in the neighboring villages of Mbigo and Ver. Reports say Ambazonia Restoration Forces had killed 3 Bororo suspected to be backlegs working with the colonial forces. 2 because the worth is retaliation from the latter jointly with the Bororo militias has been devastating. The colonial military, which has always dreaded the ARFs, demonstrated their vexation on innocent civilians, ransacking, looting, and setting properties ablaze, and in the process, killing one popular native in the name of Umfo Amado. Worthy to note that skirmishes between the restoration forces and the Bororo militias backed by the colonial forces and the colonial administration in the savannah has been a regular trade in stock as the colonial administrators reap benefits to the detriment of Ambazonians, Descents who are disfavored by the colonial administration. The meeting that started about an hour late was presided upon by the Chief of Staff, Professor Ayi Martin. He presented the agenda, which are as follows: welcome and ground rules; 2, recognition of President and Vice President by the Chief of Staff; 3, President calls meeting to order; 4, opening prayer, minute of silence, anthem, security check; 5, word of welcome by the Vice President; 6, liberation struggle update; and of course, 6, we had 6A, defense warning to ARF about fake unity calls by SOS DSS Franchi. And we had the B, web page recovery and more on financial security by National Treasury Board Chair Ma Victorian. We had C, introducing Award 2022, and D, award to counties and local government areas by SOS DHACM Steve Nebefu. 7, a word of greetings from the interim House of Representatives by Madam Speaker Dr. Winnie Lobati. 8, open comments. 8A, closing remark by President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikomi Sako. 9, closing prayer and adjournment. Aside from the President's wonderful address that crowned the occasion and was hugely appreciated, there were 2 very remarkable aspects to note. 1, Amba World Draft 2022 and its modalities were announced. The female House Speaker of Augustine Gomjua's restored House, Interim House of Representatives, Dr. Winnie Lobati, mentioned that the House had already begun intensive workshops. She also said that out of the 34 reps that were sent, she is yet to receive 1. Furthermore, she announced that the 3rd of April will be an official launch of the House with the President officially invited, and they will have yet to consider whether ABC Amba TV will be invited to cover the session. Some nations get to hear from their presidents just once in a while, but Ambazonians are blessed with a president who has his ears on the ground. He is willingly and constantly consulting to harness solutions for his people. This time around, President Dr. Samuel Sako was not only inspirational in his speech, he laid out a perfect framework for the home front. Our Sister Smart has details. Let's get to hear her.
As I went through the scripts of the president's speech to come up with this coverage, I could literally feel the president's pulse. I saw a visionary leader full of hope, wisdom, and strategy, and I thought to myself, all I would have to do is just to read some of the lines, and that will be it for the report. I read, fellow Ambazonians, as I told you last week, the focus of those who have been paid to destabilize our struggle or stop our efforts towards total independence is now the home front. They have recruited con artists in Kondege prison to spread anti-interim government propaganda. Amongst our ARFs trying to disconnect them from the people's interim government, they are serving them with poison in honeycombs. Their catchphrase is unity or collaboration. The result is confusion, distraction, and loss of innocent lives from Bui to Ngoketunja and Bambui. These renegades are encouraging our loyal ARFs to operate independent of the diaspora. By that, they mean the interim government, and are dishing out white elephant promises to our vulnerable fighter. The do-nothing and have-nothing manipulators think that by deceiving fighters, they will, with the help of La République de Cameroon, take them over, then broker negotiations with La République de Cameroon for a one Cameroon solution. This is doomed to fail like previous efforts by their predecessors. Dear ARFs, you have always been united under your counties and local government areas under this interim government, and your unity platform is known as the ARF Unity under the ARF. Remember that as county and local government regiments, you started by answering different names. You answered and still answer names such as Mountain Lions, Red Dragons, Expendables, TTA, tigers, marines, warriors, etc. But today you are all known as the ARFs. You are united under your ARF chain of command in the home front, under your field marshals, major generals, and generals. That is the kind of unity we need. Unity under leadership that is disciplined and observes the uniform code of conduct and respects the authority and institutions of the state of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. Those who refuse to identify as the ARFs but pay allegiance to individuals are not our enemies. You did not force them to join you. Of course, they are not your enemies, but they are not your friends either. They are your fellow Ambazonians. Unity without love is a trap. Unity without mutual respect is guardian of conflicts. Unity with an avowed enemy is a time. Unity without principles is foolishness, and unity with murderers is suicide. Unity without preconditions is surrender. Unity that causes you to rather fear for your safety. Unity that brings mourning and sorrows, as we see in Buyi and Undaunted, is made in La Republic. Any other so-called unity than the one you have known as ours is a short form of unity palace. Let me say it here loud and clear. We will only work with and sponsor those united under ours and who recognize the role of the interim government at this time. As we prepare to draft big for 2022, our principle this year shall be, if you believe that you don't need the interim government will find those who need the interim government. If you believe that you can do it alone through gifts in the home front or kidnapping and extortion, we will not make you our enemy, but the interim government will not help those who can help themselves. If we must not hold you accountable, why will you hold us accountable? If you don't recognize us as your chain of command, we will not recognize you as our foot soldiers. We will give account to Ambazonia and the international community of all that are under our leadership and authority. If anyone does not need our help, we will give it to those who need it and are ready to work according to a basic or standard rules and practices for all ARFs in counties and local government areas. Our relationship between the interim government and ARFs in the home front should be one of a benevolent partnership, not competition or rivalry. There is no power tussle between the home front and the diaspora. When we get to Boya, we will decide on politics and governance. Fellow Ambazonians, let me remind you and all the ARFs that the day you will agree that you no longer need the interim government in the prosecution of this war will be the day you dash our hopes to achieve a free and independent Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. Because a two-wheeled vehicle cannot move on one wheel. The home front cannot do without the interim government, and the interim government cannot do without the home front. Those who want to alter this winning formula midway into our liberation journey, one that has brought us this far, who wants La Republic de Cameroon to negotiate directly with them and not with the interim government, are fighting for a paycheck, not for a free Southern Cameroon Ambazonia. La Republic de Cameroon cannot give you independence in a brown envelope. They may give you amnesty, but not freedom. You may be freed for the world to see, but as soon as the cameras are away, they will slaughter you all like rats. Fellow Ambazonians, this week my office responded to critical needs in Lebialem to the tune of 2 million CFA as part of our Lava 3 investment to help step up the game in the home front. This was in addition to what the counties and local government areas are doing. We are also disbursing 2.5 million CFA to Indian and Undaunted. We have also responded with a sum of 1.5 million CFA to help our cholera victims in Victoria, Ambazonia. Next week, our focus will be Mezam, Donga Mantung, Fako, and Manu. Henceforth, every county is required to constitute a permanent crisis committee that meets every time there is an unusual incident happening in that county. The crisis management forums should be created on Telegram and should include in each forum the Vice President of FRA SOS of Communications and the DSS. This committee convenes regularly during crisis moments and reports to the President on a regular basis. Long live our freedom, viva the FRA, viva our beautiful country. That was it, nothing to add or subtract.
How acute is the illness this time around? Who wants Bia dead? Will he conquer death this time around? Why is it not making the headlines? Why is there panic in the corridors of powers in Yaoundé? Why is France so desperate to maintain the fossil man in power? If he dies today, what happens in the Cameroons? What could be the possible change of power or death of Paul Biya due to the Ambazonian struggle? Stay tuned to exclusive discussion with our party king, ABC Amba News Director, as he expands on that come Monday. But before then, let's hear what our correspondent, Statsmar, has got to say.
First declared dead in 2004 amid jubilation by the population while on his usual pleasure trips abroad and on his return to Cameroon and while still at the Yaoundé and Simalène airport. The octogenarian, 89 years old, quipped with pride, "C'est qui volant me monde, je le donne votant. Those wishing me dead, I give you 20 years." Today, an unimpeachable source has hinted that President Paul Biya is very acutely ill, but the government is hiding it. The revelation coming 2 years to the fulfillment of his prophecy of 2004 in 2024 is only in the hands of the Lion Man and his God. Paul Biya has been sick and regularly sick, and when this report that has filtered out says acutely sick, it beats the imagination of those who have been on the scene watching him being tossed around with the aid of medicalized machines and having unconstitutionally ceded power to his influential wife, Chantal. His in-law Ferdinand Ngongo, Secretary General at the Presidency of La République du Cameroon, and surreptitiously preparing his son for an eventual takeover in what is being paraded on social media and other BI's fan group under the cover Frankist movement. How acute can this illness be when those who watch him perform some of the state duties which he cannot delegate powers say it is a ghost having been declared dead several times? Is it his fears of precarious health situations that makes him one of the few heads of state championed in staying away from office? Always finding pleasure in luxurious hotels abroad like the Swiss Intercontinental Hotel. As we report, this old man spends most of his time now in his native Vomeka village rather than at the Etudi Palace. What is remarkable about this latest development on Biya's current health situation is how little the presidency of the Republic is trying to keep it secret to the Cameroonian people. Or is he truly dead at last? As we report, Yaoundé kingmakers are busy on state radio and television propagating matters concerning the war against Boko Haram. The southern Cameroon's crisis and the deteriorating security situation in the East region, cholera outbreak, and football especially, as the indomitable Lions stealthily qualify for 2022 Qatar World Cup to downplay the king's challenging health situations. It is reported that the king recently collapsed during a secret meeting held in Vomeka to try to insert the appointment of a vice president of La République du Cameroon in an already thwarted constitution. Lately, Biya has been receiving pills and having a lot of blood taken for examination with a feeling of fatigue and general malaise, normal for someone in an advanced age like the king. Our source added that the head of state had a sore throat, radiating abdominal pain, and also a burning feeling during urination. There are chances that end times could just be near.
Some call him Chief Buthelezi of Ambazonia. Dr. Patience Abiodun, Secretary of State for Women Services, calls him Trump Anu. Though our news director, Tapadi King, believes that it is too much hype for Anu, he says Trump is too intelligent to be with Anu. The bottom line is, Mr. Anu has been very controversial. Above all, he has been the champion of misinformation, disinformation, and distraction within the struggle, now for over 4 months. This time around, he went so low plotting with a lady that most probably is a psychic to fabricate lies just to sabotage President Sako. Star Smart went through social media reactions and made these observations. Let's listen to her.
You know what, Onyi? I also think Mr. Anu went too low in presenting himself as a desperado. After perusing excerpts of his poorly calculated phone interview with the so-called mistress of President Sako on his TV, it became eminent to me that he is among the forward runner of the enterprises of hate within the Ambazonian liberation. I observed that Mr. Anu could be under pressure of some kind and might also be strangely but negatively excited. The question would be, excited about what? Facebook views? It is troubling to see a man of his age being so excited about Facebook views to this extent, acting desperately like a teenage slave queen who just discovered Instagram. What a shame. Only, truth be told, I won't waste the time of our esteemed viewers to try to narrate in full detail the folly of last Wednesday Facebook purported interview with a certain lady now identified as Vicky Aqua. But of all the reactions across social media and fora, the write-up of the former COS of the Communications Department caught our attention. Permit me to read. This is one of the most shameful and lowest points in our independent revolution struggle. Mr. Anu is doing this in an attempt to discredit someone he pledged allegiance to just a few months ago. What? This is from the playbook of the defunct Tea Party movement in the US, a movement which Mr. Anu wholeheartedly supports. Testament with him having the photo of the far-right Tea Party champion and talk show host, the Rush Limbaugh, on his profile. Remember how Obama was painted by this same movement? The beauty is that the victim always ends up being emboldened and victorious. Mr. Anu orchestrated the most ill-advised coup and distraction in the revolution and failed on all counts. What next? Remember, he has to keep pulling rabbits out of the bag to feed his egos and sympathizers. All the best to him. It wouldn't be long before he runs out of materials. That was Dr. Luis Fernand, former Chief of Staff of the Communications Department, always inspiring with his thoughts. Let's move on with the news.
And this is a breaking news. When two elephants fight, the grass suffers. The military and armed herdsmen in one circle, residents and villagers in a different circle. To what end? We really can't wait to get a peaceful Ambazonia. Now, this is the story. The destruction in Mbongong Ndu, local government area of the Donga Mountain County, southern Cameroon continues. Report says the joint military and armed herdsmen raid in Mbongong was provoked by the killing of 3 herdsmen by retaliatory restoration fighters. Hundreds of villagers, predominantly women and children, have fled Mbongong to Fo and other parts of Ndu local government area. The pictures above shows the law who killed our General Shakira. He too has been killed by same Unity warriors. It is even clearer that the Unity warriors are out to destroy the struggle. We will bring you more details to this news as it unfolds. And on the foreign scene, talks between Russia and Ukraine were set to resume on Friday as fighting continued on Ukrainian soil. Meanwhile, Russia's state-owned energy giant Gazprom said it is still supplying Europe with natural gas, Reuters reported. The report comes despite a Friday deadline from President Vladimir Putin that Russian gas be paid for in rubles, a demand that has been rejected by European governments who appear to have found a workaround. That notwithstanding, Ukrainian forces this week recaptured a small village on the outskirts of Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv, as Kiev's forces mounted counterattack against a stalling Russian invasion. Stay smart. What is next in Russia?
Russia tries to shore up support from India. Russia will increase its use of non-Western currencies for trade with countries such as India, its foreign minister said on Friday, as he hailed New Delhi as a friend that was not taking a one-sided view on the Ukraine war. Sergei Lavrov visited India to shore up support from a country Russia has long regarded as an ally, a day after US and British officials pressed India to avoid undermining the dollar-based financial system and sanctions imposed on Russia for its invasion of Ukraine on February 24th. European Council President warns China against helping Russia. The European Union and China agreed that the war in Ukraine was threatening global security, the head of the European Council said on Friday, while warning China against helping Russia's war. The EU and China, we agreed that this war is threatening global security and the world's economy, Charles Michel told a news conference after a virtual EU-China summit. Any attempt to circumvent sanctions or provide aid to Russia will prolong the war. This would lead to more loss of life and greater economic impact, he said. We will also remain vigilant on any attempts to aid Russia financially or militarily. However, positive steps by China to help end the war would be welcomed by all Europeans and by the global community. War in Ukraine raising commodity prices for Italians, Italy Cottarelli says. Carlo Cottarelli, former director of the IMF and Prime Minister-designate of Italy, spoke to CNBC's Steve Sedgwick about the impact of the war in Ukraine. Former German lawmaker says EU economic integration strategy for Eastern Europe has failed. Heiner Flasbeck, honorary professor for economics and politics at Hamburg University and former state secretary in the German Federal Ministry of Finance, told CNBC Friday that Western countries have failed to economically integrate Eastern Europe, including Russia, over the last 3 decades.
The International Committee of the Red Cross said on Friday that it has teams traveling to Mariupol to assist with civilian evacuation, but the organization noted that effort remains extremely complex. We are running out of adjectives to describe the horrors that residents in Mariupol have suffered, Ivan Watson, head of media at the ICRC, said in a statement. The situation is horrendous and deteriorating, and it's now a humanitarian imperative that people be allowed to leave and aid supplies be allowed in. The people of Mariupol have suffered weeks of heavy fighting with dwindling water, food, and medical supplies. However, the Red Cross was not able to take humanitarian aid supplies into the city today, as it had not received agreement from both Russia and Ukraine that it could do so. Watson said this in a statement. If and when the evacuation does happen, the ICRC's role as a neutral intermediary will be to lead the Ukrainian convoy out of the Mariupol to another city in Ukraine. Watson also said that. But he added that the Red Cross was unable to confirm which city civilians would be evacuated to, as it was something Russia and Ukraine had not yet agreed upon. Our presence puts a humanitarian marker on this movement of people, giving the convoy additional protection and reminding all sides of the civilian non-military humanitarian nature of operation, Watson said. As we hope to bring you more updates on the war in Ukraine in our subsequent bulletin, stay smart. Kindly take us through Africa. What's happening across the continent, please?
In North Africa, UN Security Council approves new peacekeeping force in Somalia. The UN Security Council voted unanimously on Thursday to create a new African Union-led peacekeeping force in Somalia. The new mission, ATMIS, replaces the current mission of nearly 20,000 military, police, and civilians that will be gradually reduced to zero by the end of 2024. The purpose of the new mission is to continue the fight against Shabab jihadists. The US Deputy Ambassador to the UN, Richard Mills, described Shabab extremists as representing a formidable and adaptable threat to Somalia and East Africa more broadly. It would appear that Ambazonia might need to step up her game to be taken seriously. If not, why is it that in spite of the carnage ongoing, with over 35,000 lives wasted, more than 2 million civilian population displaced, no serious action has been taken as such to end war and ensure a negotiated settlement? In East Africa, Rwanda, making groundwater safe and accessible. Access to affordable, clean and safe water is an ongoing challenge among the poor communities in Rwanda. However, one company is helping to break the gap by purifying groundwater and then selling it to the locals at an affordable price. The Yabugogo River is an important water source for the local population. The river that winds its way around the land near the capital, Kigali, can only be used by families for washing and cleaning. But when they need drinking water, impoverished communities look for groundwater sources which are not always easy to get or safe to use. People queue to collect canisters of water and therefore putting themselves at risk of contracting waterborne diseases. The alternative is to have water treated by commercial companies, but the cost is too high for the poor in society. In West Africa, Burkinabe government dismisses ECOWAS call for Kabore's release. Burkina Faso has dismissed regional bloc ECOWAS expression of serious concern about its 36-month transition period and calls for the immediate release of former President Marc Christian Kabore. A few days after the summit of ECOWAS heads of states held in Accra on March 25th, the Burkinabe government reacted Thursday saying it will do things on its own terms. The government of Burkina Faso has only one deadline. The deadline is to do things right, to plan its action in accordance with the realities on the ground. In all objectivity and with the greatest possible prudence and realism, government spokesperson Wenkuni Lionel Bigo told journalists at a press conference. The government spokesperson stressed that the transition duration was adopted by consensus during the national conference. On the case of former President Marc Christian Kabore, Bigo hinted that consultations had been initiated for 3 weeks for Kabore's return to a family residence of his choice. When a solution is found, he will be in a residence with appropriate security. There have been growing calls in Burkina Faso for the release of the ousted leader Kabore, who has been under house arrest for 2 months since the coup that brought the military to power. ECOWAS head of state at its last meeting on the social and political situations in Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso called for the unconditional release of the former president. That was it for our coverage from Africa, and until next time, I am Star Smart reporting for Undaunted ABC Amba News. And please do not forget to get onto our website at www.abcambertv.com. Subscribe and become a club member for latest updates.
And now to sports. Qatar World Cup 2022 African Zone. Bruno Fernandes sets Portugal to the World Cup with a double in their playoff against North Macedonia. Belgian footballer dies at 28 years after battle with cancer. Miami Open. Cameroon Noro loses to Casper Ruud. Gab Ellison has more details in sports.
Qatar World Cup 2022 African Zone. The African lineup for the 2022 Qatar FIFA World Cup has been concluded with the return leg matches of the playoff round completed in sensational and exciting fashion on Tuesday. African champion Senegal headlined the 5 African countries to proceed to the World Cup alongside Morocco, Ghana, Tunisia, and Cameroon. Nigeria won and Ghana won 1-1 aggregate. Ghana qualified for their 4th World Cup after edging out Nigeria on their whale goal rule after following a 1-1 draw in Abuja. The two sides drew 0-0 in the first leg in Kumasi last week, and heading into the return fixture, the Ghanaians only needed a scoring draw to progress. They did exactly that, qualifying for the World Cup after missing the 2018 showpiece in Russia. For Nigeria, this is the first time they will be missing the World Cup since 2006. Thomas Partey had given Ghana an 11-minute lead before William Troost Ekong leveled for the Super Eagles in the 22nd minute. The Super Eagles thought they had grabbed the lead in the 34th minute, but Victor Osimhen was flagged down for offside and the decision was confirmed by VAR. In the second half, Ghana managed to soak in the pressure for Nigeria and saw off the results after 19 minutes. Senegal won, Egypt 0, 1-1 on aggregate, 3-1 on penalties. For the second time in as many months, Senegal edging out Egypt on penalties. To clinch their first Total Energies African Cup of Nations title, the Lions of Teranga repeated the same feat, this time to seal a place in the World Cup. Once again, it was Sadio Mane who scored the decisive kick as Senegal progressed to the World Cup for the third time in their history. In the shootout, both teams missed their first two kicks. Kalidou Koulibaly struck the crossbar for Senegal before Salou Keys saw his effort saved. On the other end, Mohamed Salah blazed his effort over the bar, while Ahmed Mustafa Zizo struck wide. Ismaila Sarr, however, scored the third for the Senegalese, with Ahmed El Solia responding for Egypt. Bamba Dieng then stepped up to score the fourth, and they were handed a massive boost when Edward Mendy saved Mustafa Mohamed's attempt. It was now up to Mane to score the decider, and the Liverpool forward made no mistake. Morocco 4, DR Congo 1, 5-2 aggregate. The Atlas Lions were in emphatic form against the Congolese at the Stade Mohamed V in Casablanca, winning 4-1 on the night and 5-2 on aggregate to sail into their sixth World Cup appearance. Azzedine Ounahi scored a brace with Tariq and Achraf Hakimi adding one each to the massive victory. Ben Malango scored DR Congo's consolation, but it was mere statistic as the Moroccans sailed through with ease. The game had a long stoppage after a head injury on Morocco keeper Yassine Bono, but upon resumption, the home side continued dominating. On his former stomping grounds, ex-Raja Club Athletic forward Ben Malango scored DR Congo's only goal with a brilliant strike, controlling Cedric Bakambu's ball on his chest before firing an unstoppable volley from the edge of the box. Tunisia 0, Mali 0, 1-0 on aggregate. The Tunisians were held to a 0-0 draw by Mali at home. The 1-0 victory they picked in Bamako last week proved to be vital as the Carthage Eagles flew to their sixth World Cup appearance. Algeria won Cameroon 2, 2-2 on aggregate. Karl Toko Ekambi swept home perhaps the most important goal of his career, scoring in the 4th minute of added time as Cameroon beat Algeria 2-1 in Blida to qualify for their 8th FIFA World Cup. The two teams played to a 2-2 aggregate score, but Cameroon qualified to Qatar on the away goal rule. Algeria had scored 2 minutes to the end when Ahmed Touba headed home Rachigezal's corner, but the never-say-die indomitable Lions had the last laugh. Ekambi sweeping the ball home inside the box after Michael Ngadu headed down the ball for him. It was a massive heartbreak for Algeria, with coach Jamel Belmadi sinking to the turf after the full-time whistle. He later on resigned from his position as head coach of the Algerians. In extra time, Algeria thought they had scored a vital goal when Islam Slimani netted from a cross on the left. However, Algeria's celebration were cut short by VAR, with the Algerian forward adjudged to have handled. Gab Ellison on the Sports News.
And with that report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, here is a recap of the major stories. Today on Undaunted, we told you that Bones is taking the risks to reconstruct the border road in Babuju, Bamenda, colonial forces, and Bororo. A recap of Ambazonia Peace Plan Town Hall with the President. Intelligence has it that the French Cameroon President who has been declared dead several times, is now acutely ill. Reacting to the folly of Mr. Anu, former chief of staff of the communications department, has predicted his doom soon. Russia-Ukraine talks set to resume as Russian gas has continued to flow to Europe. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted. Bringing into the news Untold stories. I am Oni Opala. We leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Thanks for watching.
Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems.